Hey guys, Banana Luck here. Welcome back to another Watch Your Realms video. We're back to take a closer look at both of the new poison heroes that are coming out. That is Numera as well as Nastya, which are both coming out this weekend. I was hoping that the other unit, I forgot his name, Vaughn. Yep, I was hoping that he will come this week as well in the same banner as Numera, but that would just be too nice and generous on one ton. And yeah, it seems like they're going to be separate. But anyways, we're going to take a closer look at these two units and we're going to see their skill kit and how it actually synergizes with some of the content that people are struggling in this game at that moment. So first of all, let's take a look at Numera because she's not the Lord. So Numera is the Piercer Esotericis fighter. So another Piercer fighter. And I think one of the rare Esotericis fighters actually. I don't think there's anyone except for Ares, Talon, Falshir. Okay, there's quite a bit now, but I think you guys get the point. There's really not much of these units in meta at the moment, at the very least. Those units that I mentioned, you don't really see them. But I get the hunch that Numera is going to be in a lot of teams moving forward for a few of those content. And she also got buffed recently. She got reworked. I think she does a lot more poison now. And there's also the poison surge effect. And also, on top of all that, she's been added to the Esotericis faction. So let's take a look at her stats. So max has a Zealot range, 4.8k attack, pretty decent for a fighter. And everything else is pretty much average. And then we take a look at her talent. Basic attack grants 1 Grimton Spike. A spike blessed by the Elm can be launched at enemies to deal damage. So having this spikes itself doesn't actually do any damage. She needs to launch it. And then this effect can maintain up to a maximum of 4 Grimton spikes at once, which means that every 4 attacks she gets max stack. And once that happens, every basic attack has a 50% chance to launch 1 extra Grimton spike. I see, so she will launch it and then deal 400% damage, inflicting 1 stack of poison and restoring 40 rage for the hero. So that means that she's gonna essentially have a chance to launch one of these spikes whenever it's maxed out. And then that will deal poison and also give her 40 rage and do 400% damage. Very neat. I wish Iova had something like that with his mechanics. Because it's very hard for him to get his swords unless, he actually had marksmen accompanying him. Basic attack, just magic damage to one enemy one time, 120%, nothing too fancy there. And then the first passive. Nature's Wrath's Grimtom Spikes additionally inflict stun. I'm assuming this is the ultimate. The stun is for 0.5 seconds, and when at least 4 Grimton Spikes hit the same target in a short period, triggers 1 time of Toxic Surge, and the stun duration actually goes up, my bad, to 1.5 seconds. And then the Toxic Surge damage goes up to 50% damage per stack of poison. So that's gonna be what? 30 times 50, so 1500% damage every time she removes that, 30 stacks of poison. And then second passive, each Grimton Spike inflicts Grimton Roots, which deals continuous true damage equals to the caster's attack. So 30% of the caster's attack, stacking up to 6 times. Okay. And then also damage reduction of 30%. That's actually quite nuts. I can already see from this damage reduction, she's going to be a key unit in content like Themra or, Guild Boss for that reason, because damage reduction is very important there. And also true damage, we don't really see this much in like base heroes. We normally see them in like ancient exclusive units or with arbiters. So it's really neat that we're getting her and this buff version of her, which actually does true damage. Very nice. I don't recall her doing this last time. Neither did she do damage reduction. I don't recall any of those. And then her ultimate immediately gains 2 extra Grimton spikes and rapidly launches all the spikes to random enemies in range after charging for a short period. Each spike does 520% damage and inflicts 1 stack of poison, which allows her to inflict 6 stacks of poison in, Guild Boss content for that record. So it seems like her kit synergizes pretty well. The cost goes down to 900, and if you have a Esotericist Legendary Lot with her, that goes down to 675. Pretty neat. And I really like the rework on her, especially this Toxic Surge effect. Because I was wondering for the longest time, why did they increase poison to like 30 stacks? It didn't make any sense. And with that, they also nerf a lot of the poison units in the game. Liam being the only unit doing neurotoxin now, and we finally have the reason why they were always, planning to release a poison team like this one with Numera. And then Awakenings, during the ultimate, increases damage by 25%. Damage dealt by Grimton Spike and Toxic Surge guarantees a crit hit. I don't think the second line matters as much. I think the 25% damage is where things are at. And then A2 extra flat attack. A3, when attacking enemies, ignores 20% of magic resistance, and each time the ultimate is cast, this effect increases by 5% up to an extra 25% increase. So that's going to give her 45% magic resistance ignore. That's pretty crazy if you think about it. She has true damage, and on top of that, at A3, she also has this in her kit. A shame that I put for 1+1 because I would have otherwise wanted to go for, extra copies of her because she's looking pretty great in the moment. A4, extra penetration. A5 heals the hero for 20% of the true damage dealt by Grimton Roots. I don't really care about this. I think if you're rushing for Awakenings on Numera, A3 is where it's at. Right, so we're done with Numera. Let's move on to Nastya. So this is the new Esotericist slot that's coming. It looks like she has spikes in her design as well. And you can't see her lot skill from there, you just see it here. It's basically the same except for the last skill. So skill cost reduction still goes down to 25%. And then increases the faction team's member damage against targets inflicted with debuff by 5% per debuff up to 40% increase. I think people have done the calculations. It is possible to get to the 40%, but it's not always going to be up at 40%, and you do need a few other units to mix in to actually get that maximum stack. So first of all, 40% chance. Wait, sorry, we need to take a look at her base stats first. 5.3k attack, that's higher than average. Attack interval I know is pretty average, but yeah, 5.3k is pretty high. And then let's take a look at talent. 40% chance to inflict 40% acute poisoning and 1 stack of poison when dealing damage. And when receiving direct damage from enemies, inflicts 40% acute poisoning and 1 stack of poison to the target. So it means any AoE spells that hits Nastya, she's just gonna return them with, acute poisoning and a stack of poison. And what I wonder is whether stacks of poison will have that 40% chance to inflict more stacks. Because if that's the case, it's gonna be pretty broken. Okay, and acute poisoning, what this does, increases all poison and toxic surge damage taken by 40%, synergizing very well with Numera deck. So basic attack, 120% magic damage to one enemy, prioritizing the one with the highest HP. Interesting. And then each time poison is successfully inflicted, deals true damage equal to 10% attack one time. For every 1 stack of poison on a target, increases the true damage on this hit by 1%, up to 20% increase, and then the cap multiplier goes up to 30%, which is 30 stacks of poison, and then the base true damage goes up to 15%. So what I wonder is if the increase is a straight up 15 plus 30, or is it 30% of 15, which is going to be like, what, 19.5%? That We wouldn't know because, as usual, the game doesn't like to be too, explicit about things like this. And then second passive gains poison immunity. I think she's just not gonna be hit by poison at all. Each time successfully inflicting poison or refreshing it 6 times increases the hero's attack by 4%, stacking up to 7 times. Stack cap goes up to 10%, and the required stack goes down to 4 times. And that's gonna give her a 40% damage increase. You can already see where things are going with this unit. A higher than average base attack buff, and then true damage in her kit, and we aren't even at her ultimate yet. Venomous Hatred, this is an auto ultimate, so it's a 450 cost, and then with the 25% decrease, it will go to about what? 237 cost, and then deals 320% damage 6 times to one enemy, highest HP in range, and inflicts 1 stack of poison and magic resistance reduction with each hit. Judging from this, 15 seconds debuff, and the rage cost on this, I'm gonna go on a limb here to say that she's gonna be able to keep this up permanently in single target content. And for every 1 stack of poison on the target, increases this ultimate's damage by 1%, up to a 30% damage increase. So sounds pretty good. Just more and more stacking damage multipliers, and this one is on the ultimate. And yeah, that's just gonna increase the 320% to what? 410% ish also. And not to forget that she's probably gonna permanently inflict this magic resistance reduction. So very nice, single target mage. The only shame is her cost is ridiculously high. I don't foresee us using her in, single target arena at all for that regard. So Awakenings. Each hit of the ultimate inflicts stun on targets with poison. So that's gonna be a 6 hit in Samurai. And when activated, applies poison immunity to allies within 2 tiles. So I can imagine people using this to make their autos in Samurai more reliable, even though right now if you have A3 Eloin, that's already a possibility. But nothing too crazy here. I think it's more just utility. A2, however, 300 flat attack, very nice for a unit like her, and it increases the faction team's member penetration by 5%. Then A3, this is the one that I think is where it's at, especially for Abyss. If only one target exists in range, increases acute poisoning inflicted by talent to 70%. So all the damage, it's gonna go up from 40 to 70% instead. A4 is penetration, and then A5, 25% increased damage to targets inflicted with poison. Not too shabby, but I wouldn't say that that's like super game breaking. I do think A3 is good enough. I don't know about A5. People with test server need to test it out, but it looks like all these are good awakenings. But I would think that A3 is good enough, especially if you're going to be using her for Abyss as well as the Boris Codex. So, very interesting units. I'm excited about them, but with that excitement also comes the fact that we will often be disappointed when we usually don't get these units. I really hope we can go for them and actually score them. I do have enough for PD. It's just that, luck isn't always on our end with these summons. But yeah, very exciting stuff coming up. We also have Vaughn that's coming up in a bit, and I will be posting a Should You Summon video later this week as well to see whether you should actually summon for these units, because if you don't get Nastya, is the other unit still going to be useful for you? My answer for now is yes, but I will probably do more evaluation in that video to show you guys why that's the case. So yeah, that's gonna be it for the video. Let me know down in the comments if you're saved up. I went to summon on a 1+1 and I am 100% regretting it right now. Even though we got a new copy of Yuri, I think that those summons would have been better used, in getting more copies of Numera, especially her A3. Her A3 looks really good at the moment. So yeah, that's game it for the video. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions about these heroes, what I feel about them, feel free to leave it down in the comment section below. And if you found the video helpful, feel free to leave a like or subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.